Back once again for the Renegade Master. We are working and the internet is going. So here we are, and we keep continuing on our walk around the wheel. And here we are at the 3.5 profile on the right angle cross of the four ways. The 44.3. Interference. This is a great line. The failure to interact based on circumstances, the ability to recognize the threat of interference and to prepare for its effects, the alertness and instinct to handle the ego of others, or a deluded response to interference that gets stuck in projection and as a result is unrealistic in its appraisal and error prone. The possibility that the instinct cannot handle the ego of others. There's no more powerful 44 than this third line in dealing with any ego. And the secret is that the 44 in this case does not interact. In other words, it makes you pretense of interacting. It may be present. It can handle the aura connection of any ego, where it has difficulty in trying to figure out which one can be productive. After all, it's the failure to interact based on circumstances. So, if the circumstances are correct, you can interact. But in the general circumstances of the way in which the world operates and in the way in which the third line sees the world, it is obvious that it's pointless to interact with most egos, that they are savage. There is this very interesting, very male movie that came out a while ago. It's called The Hunted, with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones. It's about basically a very earnest, profound man who, in the early part of his life, trains people to kill. Special services kind of stuff. He just trains people to kill. There are these people that become killers and become killers that are so good at killing that it is second nature for them. And the story is about how the teacher and the student eventually have to confront each other in a fight for life or death. The whole thing about the 44 is that the 44 carries with it a deep visceral fear of the 26. They actually not so much trash the 26 to kill, but manage its killing. And it's frightening because at any moment they fear that it can turn against them. And there is the great fear in the power of the ignorant ego, how dangerous it is. One of the things you notice about the 44-3 people is that they appear to be weak. They give off a frequency that says, I don't challenge the ego world, when in fact they're deeply equipped for it. But they're not fools. They know very clearly that the ego is a killer and that the ego is going to crank them up in one way or another. And that if it's not as suitable for them, they want to deal with it. And nobody but a 3-5 can figure that out faster. It's like they get it right away. So they want to learn to take advantage of it, basically. They learn to financially take advantage of it. These are the kind of people that can work around enormous egos and never be affected, never provoke and never be affected. If they're correct, if they really get to live out the correct life, this is a very important way that to recognize that ignorance and lack of awareness can never be allowed to interfere with the need of the tribe to survive. Okay, so step up, motherfuckers. Then we go to the 3-6 profile on the right angle cross of the four ways. The 3-6 one and one doesn't want to give up the stability in the quarter. It's really had a good ride. It gets a bad reputation in the first two quarters, and there's a really has felt good in duality. Everything is going to be fine, but this line is very difficult for them. That is, the early part of the life, the 3-3 phase in their life, they're going to get smashed by egos. That's the whole point. This is how the three learns as a 44 that the ego without management should be killed. That's their thing. Once you train them, once they're there, they have all that ability to be the soldier. You know that they have to be controlled and managed, otherwise, they are loose cannon. That there are dangers. You never know when they're going to turn on you. They're like a mad dog, you know. You don't know. You don't get to that wonderful dog that you've brought it into your life to protect your property and it attacks you. That's what the 44-3 is always looking for, on the lookout for. So now we go to the 4-6 on the riding across of the four ways. We get to the fourth line. I guess it's time for one to say something nice about the fourth line in this quarter. Come on now. The fourth line in the first two quarters, we have an Academy Award. So let's keep things in perspective here. You have to take a little bit of the dark with the light. However, the fourth line, honesty, the refusal to engage in hypocritical interaction. Now, it's obviously something that you have to learn and grow into life. But look at what's underneath this. What's underneath this is indifference at its most logical and cutting. The indifference possible when guided by instinct of memory. The sun in detriment is about the sacrifice of the difference for survival, but the theme here is indifference. It's what the four learns from the three. The 4 recognize that if you're indifferent to the ego is attracted to you. The 4 really knows how to create that sticky web that holds everything there. And here it is, honesty. Oh, I love that. What a sweet keynote. Wouldn't you like to have that? How nice. Well, the honesty is the indifference that's possible, and it's a fantastic manipulation. The 37 can get to the 40 without that massage. It's this: you're so important to me, and I love you for what you're doing, and aren't you wonderful? And the 44 says, I don't really think you can do this job. No, I don't really need you. As a matter of fact, I don't really think we've got what it takes. You say that to a soldier in the boot camp, and the soldier says to you, what do I kill? Who do I kill? Nothing pisses the ego off more than not being given a chance to do the denying the self. The 26 wants to be able to say, no, 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 you want me, you need me, you need me to work for you, and you need me to keep your damn tribe alive. And here's the 44 going, I don't think you can keep the tribe alive. I don't think. It's worth my time to invest in you. You've really got them right. You've got them so tight that they can't breathe anymore. The refusal to engage in hypocritical interaction. I love it. Indifference. And you can see what it means to be cool, cold. Really have to see that about the spleen. The spleen is really cold existential business. This is a real cold place. These are people that can put on an incredible cool. I don't need you. Not the one. These are the kind of people that when you give out a quota that you've got to deliver 100 and you deliver 175, they say, gee, I thought you'd do better than that. And then they say, why don't you go home and take a rest? You're really not up to your regular energy. And the poor 26 is going to hell here. What do you mean? I broke the record. What do you mean? It's not enough? I show you. Yeah, yeah. The 44 knows how to turn the heat off. It just turns the heat off. It's an air conditioning, the whole environment. It cools the ego right down. But of course, we are at the end of the Reidinger process. We are at the 4-6. And you see again that this is something that hypocrisy is a 6-line theme. And that you can see that it built into this 4-6 profile is going to be this hypocrisy. You will start off hypocritical. After all, that's okay. We have to learn all these things. We have to live all these things. But one of the most important things to understand is where the 26 for now censorship. Censorship resonates to honesty. Isn't that wonderful? Can you imagine what a 26-4 and a 44-4 will do? The indifference to censorship as long as the goal is achieved. And what is the goal? Well, whatever the whole it's that's greater than the sum of its parts gets transmitted. And by the way, like any good for, if opportunity calls, they will give up their coolness if necessary, just to make sure that they get what they need. So they're cool motherfuckers, these 44s, all the way cool, cold, and colder and colder.